Hey everyone, welcome to the Parts Girl podcast. I'm super excited to be interviewing Justin Pomeroy. Welcome, Justin.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and you are with the Foundation Auto Corp. And how many stores are you overseeing?
As far as OEMs go, I think there's 38 in total. Some of them are under the same rooftops, but we've got some plans to get them out on their own. That's usually how that works. If you buy a kind of a legacy dealer group and it's been, historically housed under one piece of property, the manufacturers usually like to hold you accountable to giving them their own location. So we're working on that, getting them, having each store stand on its own.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I'm assuming you didn't start with this. You have a story of how you got into auto and how you got to where you are, and it leads to what you're passionate about. So can you share with me how you got started?
Yeah. So I was in law enforcement, Ventnor City Police Department. Started out in the prisons for Livingston Parish Sheriff's Department and out in Livingston, Louisiana, with fair share of time there. And then worked for West Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Department. Left there and did 5 years with Ventnor City Police Department, working at North Baton Rouge Uniform Patrol. And so I did that for the majority of, almost as long as I've been in automotive. And so it's what I thought I would do for the rest of my life.
Wow. Like what changed? How do you go from, because normally people who are in that industry stay with it forever.
No, you're still in public service, right? And taking care of people, usually on the worst or best day of their life. And so it's taught me a ton of stuff that I still use today as far as relating to people and situations that may not be so great. And so I left. I met my wife, Caroline, at LSU, and she said, well, her entire family still lived here in Spring, Texas, just up north of Houston around the Woodlands. So she was moving back, and I said, well, they need good cops anywhere, right? And so I moved here, I guess about 9 years ago. And so when I moved here, there was an incident that took place for a lot of people may or may not know. There's active shooter that took place on Airline Highway in North Baton Rouge, where my field training officer was killed in line of duty. And his training officer and 3 other officers were killed as a result of just a kind of a martyr situation. And so at that time, I just made a conscious decision to do something different with my life, because obviously, it's nothing easy to do. And it took me a long time to come to terms with leaving public service. But for my kids, for my wife, and for myself, long-term wise, I just thought it was the right decision. I was going to have to go through a whole nother police academy with the Houston Police Department, even though I was a direct transfer. And, I just said, I'm going to have to do all that again. What I was making, and unfortunately, law enforcement's not the most highly compensated profession in the world. And so I just went out. And my father-in-law was a general manager at the time at a dealership. And he said, come right service, you come be, quickly an advisor. And I said, well, can you beat $30,000 a year? And he kind of giggled and he's like, I think Whataburger's hiring, and I think so that's the matter of fact, And so I said, well, okay, well, that went there as well. And so I just jumped into it first, right? And as coming out of law enforcement, a lot of the guys there are A-type personality, and they're going to be the best at whatever they do and have that kind of undefeatable mindset to them. So I jumped in and got to it, and it took me a while to be talked to the way that some of these people have decided to talk to us, because coming from law enforcement and telling people where to go and what to do, you kind of have to take a step back and scratch your chin a little bit. And like, did I just sort of hurt?
Yeah.
That's because it's different.
That's a totally different dynamic. Yeah.
And I'm not a small person. I'm 6'3", 275. And so it's just like, I'm not a mean person by any measure. And I used to tell people all the time, how you let me treat you is how you dictate this experience. And, if you want to be a horse's pursuit, then I'll get right up there with you. And if not, be pleasant, go about life.
How did you manage that? Because I can't totally be like that when you're a writer, right? Like you can't, it's hard, but
for sure, you definitely 9 times out of 10 have to eat crow and just kind of bite your tongue and go about your job and wipe the blood off and take the next customer with a smiling face, right? I don't think not everyone can do that. It definitely I've got a pretty mild temper, and I wasn't your typical, cops are portrayed as just, arrogant or condescending or whatever like that. And so I definitely was not that guy to begin with.
Yeah.
So I think that has a lot to do. I've always been a pretty kind heart, not super, up hills or valleys or anything, not just, even keel guy. And so, it's just, it comes to the point now where you turn it into a psychological event where you're like, well, if I let me out of my personality, then you win. So if I remain calm and collected and I handle this the way I think I should, at the end of the day, like even if I don't necessarily, make any money out of it, if I can turn this experience into a good experience when it's not such a great experience for you, I understand why you're upset. And it's not because of me, even though you're taking it out on me. I just had to really down and figure out how to cope, because it definitely wasn't easy in the beginning. And so more I've sought to understand, and more I rather than knee-jerk reaction, like, getting face to face or to their level of anger or, frustration. I just, I always tried to be, just as in law enforcement, come into a situation and your job is to diffuse something that's gotten completely out of hand.
Yeah.
And so, I just kind of went back to that and was like, it's not a situation as dangerous or as, life threatening or whatever it might be, but how do you be the peace whenever this side or just the situation in general is absolutely bananas? And I feel like kind of helped, early.
Oh yeah. No, that makes sense because you're diffusing any situation. Luckily, in the dealerships, they're not life threatening.
Less life threatening, right?
Yeah.
And I still do it to this day. I'll say, like a domestic event in law enforcement you go to, and you're like, this person said this and that person said that. Now you're dealing with the customer and you're dealing with the advisor or manager, and you're saying, well, they said this should be free or this would be under warranty, and say, okay, well, you've got this side and this side, and somewhere down the center is the truth, right? And you've got to delve into that and figure out what exactly, transpired. And sometimes it's not difficult. It's a lot easier to work a train wreck before it happens than after. And so 90% of the time I just tell people, look, be a solutionary person and instead of, an additional problem. And 90% of the time, if you fix a person's problem, whether they're mad or not, you're going to be the hero in the situation. And that's what builds customer satisfaction. That's what builds returning customers, because at the end of the day, even if they cussed you up and down, they got what they needed and you were, even keel and you were understanding and you listened and you were empathetic, on and on and on, it's just takes a lot and it's not easy, right? And you wear it, you do.
Yeah.
Today, it's what we signed up for. God.
Yeah, it is. And so you started out as writing about 8 years ago. Is that what I'm gathering?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me how it led to where you are now. Like, how did this all come about?
So honestly, it was just, I worked service, and then I had a situation where one of our managers had to step down because of a situation that he was involved in, and eventually was terminated as a result of it. But I kind of just, it was one of those things. Like I felt like early on I was trained wrong on purpose because of the relationship with my father-in-law, and so it was kind of like, we won't many of our time, but that's who he is. He should hear whether we want it or not. And so I wasn't shown the right way. We had 3 desks and 4 advisors, including the manager. And so it was me kind of hopping back and forth on the desk whenever I had one come available. And so finally I said, excuse my language, but screw you guys, I'm going to go stand out in the parking lot with my pen and pad, and I'll just walk every person into this apartment and I'll write them up as I've got them. Because otherwise they're just standing at their desk waiting for people to walk in, which we all know, the customer at their car, a standard operating procedure. I didn't know at the time, but to get out of their way and to actually be able to generate some revenue for myself, I had to. Mm-hmm. So I was walking the parking lot, knowing every customer, I'd walk them back into the store. And so then they had to give me a computer because I had the customer. So they turned from that to them disappearing kind of thing, because, you would take 1 or 2 people. It would just be me on the service drive with 15 customers in front of me. And it was the opposite, right? Like either sink or swim.
Yeah.
I got it was me and another guy, still talk to him to this day, Casey Means. He's with Mac Hike in Houston, super great guy. And I said, well, when the two of us will take care of it, guy. And so it just kind of went from that. I blossomed a little bit and started looking into the management thing. And, we opened a new store and he, my father-in-law at the time said, look, you can stay where you're at, or you can take this and try to do what you can with it. And I said, well, if I flop, right, like that sucks. But if I don't, what a great thing to have on your resume. You open a brand new point, we're able to see it from concrete to what it is now. And I stayed there for about a year and a half, and he had went to do other things, and by nature in the business, right, there's a little bit of nepotism there. And then, so I didn't see myself going anywhere once I got that store up and running. And so I made the decision to come closer to my home because I was driving like 45 minutes each way.
Okay.
So I got with the Keating Group and Brent Christensen and Adam Burgundy. And if someone asked me what I would do, if I got fired tomorrow, I'd be back at the Keating Automotive. They're a phenomenal group. They're really great people, God-fearing human beings, and can't say enough about those people. But stayed with them for about a year or so, managing there quickly. And quickly we creates, sales and revenue there. Gross went about 30% increase from the first year. And so about that time, this came about. And so I just told him, I said, look, I love you guys to death, but this is an opportunity that I can't just, walk past. And, I had to take it, and they understood. I told them, I said, I'll give you a 90-day notice. I'll stay here for 3 months to help train my replacement. Whoever you want. Because I have an unbelievable amount of respect for Brent, for Adam both. And, your deal, and, give us to the end of next month and you're fine to go.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't ready for this position. I don't have any problem saying that, but
Okay.
I wasn't ready to leave law enforcement, and I won't be ready for whatever's next either. God knows that I'm going to give it everything I have right now to myself and my family and whoever I'm working for.
Yeah. Are we ever ready though? Like, I feel like we're never really ready.
No, a person's success, in my opinion, is how uncomfortable they're willing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So you took a position where you weren't fully comfortable with, but figured it out. What would you say is the most exciting part about what do you get so excited about with your job?
I just get excited about our growth. I mean, I get excited about seeing stores, do better than they've ever done. I get excited for you face a lot of general managers, and whether they're their own fault or not, they have egos in this business that are the size of mountains, right? And so sometimes their egos are big and they get in their own way, but eventually, if you're persistent enough, you kind of get them to your side, and maybe, if all else that you've done has failed, let's try that thing that I mentioned. And then it happens and you a double ROI or, whatever it is. And and they come back to you and they apologize for it. I say, I'm sorry, I fought you so much on that. You're right. Sometimes, we try to recreate the wheel and go the rougher route. Right. And so I just like camaraderie. I've always played football. I've always been in law enforcement. Truly is, once you start to create deep relationships with these guys, general managers, service managers and stuff, and they trust you and you help them be more successful for themselves and for their families and just see something grow, and you're part of something that's so big, right? We have, close to 2,000 something employees now, and it's just really cool. I talk to people all the time, and I don't think myself of anybody else, I'm not anything special. I'm just another guy. And so maybe that's part of it. And I always try to make myself extremely approachable, but I treat everybody as if I was their equal, and nothing coming from law enforcement. And I had a Lieutenant Larice Teague, and she said, I'll never ask you to do anything that I haven't or won't do myself. And that's always stuck with me too. From the, it's all over every meme everywhere, treat the CEO with the same respect as you would treat the janitor, right? And so to me, that's huge. Being humble. I'm always try to learn and to bring people along that may not, maybe know. And we assume a lot of times in this industry that people just know what they're doing because they've been in it for 10, 12 years. So there's tons of stores that we acquire that there's just, I was always shown this way, be it right, be it wrong. And who's to say my way is right? It's just, but opening up people's eyes to different methodologies or different ideas of how to skin the cat. It's neat to pass and trade information and ideas and see the successes, sometimes not.
Yeah. And I would imagine with acquiring the amount of stores that you guys do, you run into a lot of situations where, the historical way of doing business is this is how we've always done it. And so it's like, how do you go about changing
It's
people?
difficult.
Because I think
Very,
that's really
very,
hard to change. Yeah.
we're all creatures of habit, right? And sometimes we
Yeah.
are so entrenched in the way that we've always done it that we refuse to change. And so sometimes you have to ask, tell, make, just like in law enforcement. You ask them and you tell them and then you make them, right? And so like, it's not always comfortable. It's really not. And you have to have those candid conversations from time to time where like, look, we tried your way and your way, it's not wrong, but it's not working, or at least it's not giving the desired result as quickly or as incrementally as we would choose it. So, I always try to give them some autonomy, and everyone gets their autonomy, right? Until they get a reason to not have autonomy. So the whole thing is really difficult. And it's hard to get people to, especially because there's no trust right away, right? You go into a store and you've just met them, you're in the dating period. Some people you might think you like a lot because they are personal, but they're also full of crap. So it's cool. Everybody can kind of get the different personalities nailed down and figure out who's and who's blowing smoke and who's legit. So there's definitely a new girlfriend, whenever that whole thing comes about, or boyfriend.
The honeymoon between getting to know each other. Yeah, that I would imagine that's like I feel like I probably wouldn't be good at that because I am not good at like seeing bad in people. Like if they tell me they're good, like, okay, you're a good person.
Or even if someone else tells you that someone else is this or someone else is that, you don't trust them because they're going to do that. And then next thing you know, that person's actually the best person on the team, and it was just someone else trying to. So I give everyone the opportunity to prove themselves, give everyone the opportunity to prove me wrong. And I just try to see, give the opportunity. And if it's obviously not working out, then we have to make a decision, right? Which is not always a popular decision, but it's business.
It is business.
Part of it's friends and part is buds, but just can't.
Yeah. No, yeah. If they're not working for the company, it just doesn't make sense. And I could see how your prior background could really help, identify those pieces. Yeah.
That's law enforcement. You have to, everyone is lying to you. You just have to detect the lie. And that's not the way you treat everybody.
Yeah.
Definitely kind of always in the back of your mind.
No. Yeah. And it's a natural instinct probably for you because of the industry that you were in. You just think about it a little bit more. Would you say that, in the business that you had anyone that like took you under their wing or really like helped kind of mentor you or guide you besides your father-in-law?
No, of course. No, I mean, it was literally like, I think I started in the first 2 weeks. I just kind of sat in an office and was like, what are my expectations? Because we were very early on. I think there was like 7 of us in total that were here at the corporate office. And so I was like, what do you want me to do? Just do fixed operations stuff. And I was like, okay. Because I came from like a writing manager at a quick lane, right? And so it's like literally I started just messaging, it's very humbling, and then you have to kind of get out of your own way on things. But like I started looking for people on LinkedIn with my title, and I was like, hey, what does your day look like? What are the reports you write? And what are your pay plans look like? How do you affect this metric or this? I mean, I knew in a general consensus about what I was supposed to do, but like, as far as, if this, then that kind of thing, it was very, I had to get real okay with being open, and so that's the problem in our our careers and the automotive business is people are proud, very proud. And so they won't reach out and say, hey, I don't know. I've never been shown, or please help me with this because I can't quite figure it out. And so being that way and being okay to expose yourself and kind of just be honest with people. And, I'm not saying that I was going to do a terrible job, but it definitely would have been harder without people, reaching out, giving me like Gene Girdley and Mike Vogel have been huge, and just learning what percentages should be, the benchmark should be, what's NADA say, and just where to go find that information. You wouldn't know. It's not supposed to fall out of a tree. You got to go find, look for it. And so those guys have been, always just super approachable, very easy to talk to, super kind. Even if it's a stupid question, they never made you feel that way. They never laughed at you. So there's a ton of people in automotive and fixed operations and on LinkedIn that truly care about people and reaching back and paving the way for what this workspace will be and what it has been, and just trying to make it a better place for everyone that exists. So I appreciate that. And I promise that I'll do, my 2 cents to make sure I perpetuate that kindness. It's just hard to find people like that. They're out there.
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough to find them. So.
Yeah. And it's great that LinkedIn has really connected all of us. And I think that you're doing it now by coming on the show, because who knows who's listening and who you're going to impact.
I beg my own employees to message me all the time, and sometimes I can't even get that. So I'm just, telling them, guys, if you don't know, ask. And talk about it. And I don't get emails or any text messages. The ones that care, they do. They really do reach out, but it's not the majority. And so I would say, if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or add me, or if there's a metric that you're trying to reach that you can't quite figure out how to get there, just I'm an open book. My wife hates it, but I'm on my phone more time than I'm not. So it's, it's one of those things. It's just, you got to be there for people. And I think that's part of being successful is, helping people solve problems. That's what we're all here for. And so the more problems you can solve, the more well off to.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is what our careers are. These are our jobs for solving problems and being there for each other and helping each other with everything. And it sounds like your role wasn't like you took over for someone and you were trained.
No, it was a startup. I mean, we only had 6 or 7 dealerships at the time. We had a corporate office, and startups are, they're shares instead of big salaries. And, it's like, help us get to X, and then there will be a reward eventually, but it's not going to be up front. And it was gotten to the point where I think some guys here were just like, we don't have enough time to do it all. So this is a point in time where we fully use this position. And luckily I was in a place that I could do it, because it was very hard in the beginning. I guess my son was about 2 or 3 at the time, and I was traveling 2 weeks out of the month. So I was kind of getting a little heat at home, and it wasn't, what we all signed up for, but I just said, just be patient, please, and let me get this out of my way. If nothing else, it'll be the stuff that I will learn will be a replacement.
Yeah.
So that's the cool part about this is in the, little north of 3 years that I've been here, the stuff that I've learned, the people I've met, the connections I've made, and just, the experience in itself is, you can't take that no matter where I go.
No, you can't. From 6 to 38. I feel like I can relate a lot with that with PartsEdge, and like how there was nothing really created for me. Like I had to figure it all out.
Yeah.
You're like, this is what we do. Figure out how to sell it. Okay.
Build value, make yourself valuable and irreplaceable. And then, and it's another thing. A lot of people are scared. I had a conversation this morning. We had Friday recap calls, and I said, I want everyone to be as good as me. I want you to all want my job. If you don't want my job, then what are you doing? Or why are you doing it? So, and so I want everyone to be as good as me. They're like, everybody's good as me. I should have any problem finding employment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the right mindset to have, especially for a team. You want them to be as good as you, because then you can take a day off. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't walk away and go on a couple of days, siesta or something, or, just go with family and be in their own team, where you're trying too hard to keep them ignorant to self-preserve. And that's not the way.
No, and they still need you. It's just they can function without you. Yeah. So being that you I wanted to ask, what did I want to ask you? I always like asking a couple fun questions to wrap up because we're wrapping up the show. And one just popped out just to me. If you could go back to because it sounds like you started working early on. Like it sounds like you had a good head on your shoulders, like didn't really like struggle in any way, like teenage years, I guess, to say.
Well,
So
well,
yeah.
coming out of high school and you go right into law enforcement, there's not a lot of time to be an idiot, right?
No.
To pretty much immediately be responsible, pretty much you were, an adult or you get fired. You go out DWI because that kind of, you end up in the newspaper when you're a cop and that happens. So unfortunately that you're held to a higher standard. And so in order to maintain what I want to do in life, I chance gooseball.
No, yeah, and that's okay. But if you could go back to your 18-year-old self or your, that I guess that's age, would you tell yourself, I'm not saying like change anything, but is there anything that you would tell yourself that you would think of now?
I would have applied myself harder in high school as far as, scholastics go. I played football, but I definitely, I can't think of anything that I would have told myself, but my parents and everything, that anything I started, I never got the chance to quit. I was going to finish it, whether I liked it or not. And as far as other people, I would put it in body that if you start something, finish it, whether you want to or not, just see it through. But I've always tried to be the best in everything that I did because I want to make my parents proud and I want, myself proud. So that's.
Do you think they put that pressure on you, or do you think that was just like a natural thing or comedy?
It was never pressure. My parents, it was never do better or anything like that, but they were at every practice and I tried to do this for my kids and they were just very supportive of me. Whatever. I think my junior year, I left Live Oak and we lived in a double wide trailer in Zachary, Louisiana in the parking lot of a meat market because I wanted footballs for a better team. And they made that sacrifice for me. They said, fine, we'll sell our house. We'll move to a different school. My dad had to get work at a different location.
Wow.
And so that was, for me to succeed in sports, if that's what I truly wanted to do. And I was a big kid. I was 6'3", probably 295 in high school.
Wow.
A little bit smaller now, but, just that support, right? Like, how dare I let them down after what they've done for me kind of thing. And so I've always wanted to make them extremely proud. And I still tell them that to this day, They'll tell me, we're really, really happy for all the things you've accomplished, this and that. And, I was trying to pay you back for all you did for me. And so they said, you far exceeded that. So don't worry about that. And so.
And you have siblings too, right?
Really younger brother.
Yeah. How was that?
He's very successful. He just finished his APIs. He's in rope access. He works in plants. There's not a lot. I mean, I say there's not a lot to do. They're probably the same amount. Louisiana is just a different state. A lot of people that I know and that I'm friends with, they're in the plants, petroleum and oil and gas and stuff like that. So he lived up for his whole life, I think, pretty much. And he's young, 20. He may have just made 30. I think he's 29. He's 6 years younger than me, and so he just passed his APIs, and he's doing really well for himself. So he's
That's
one
really
of the
cool.
younger managers in the company. So he's for his age, he's very, very far.
Yeah, sounds like you guys had good parents, and yeah, that's really
Blessed.
good.
Very blessed.
Very blessed. Okay, my last fun question, or I guess I got two for you. If you could compare yourself to an animal, what would you compare yourself to?
A hippopotamus. No, I'm joking. Because I love to eat. No, I don't know.
I mean, if you want to compare yourself, it could be a spirit animal too. It doesn't have to be like like from Coco, like, those fun spirit. You have kids. Yeah, you watched Coco, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that. I don't know.
That's okay.
A grizzly bear.
A grizzly bear. I can see that. But maybe like a soft, kind one.
Yeah. Like a teddy bear, but with
yeah. That's cool. I can see that. And then what do you drive? Like, what's your daily driver?
I have a brand new truck that I just got, and it is by far. I don't get we have demos for our CC team, and I don't care about vehicles really much anymore because I just to drive all the cool stuff, and I have a Wrangler at home.
Oh, that's so cool. You don't care about
Here, but it doesn't get me excited. Side vehicles are cool. I don't really fit in. I'm like the Lamborghinis and Ferraris and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I have a Jeep Wrangler at home. I don't have anything super flashy. It's got a 4-inch lift and 37s on it. And it's actually not even mine. It's my wife's. I don't even say. But I just got the GMC 1500 Denali Ultimate as my demo. And that's an exciting truck. It's a truck. Bet. That's not something you usually think, but it's got a phenomenal exhaust on it. It's got the 6.2 liter. It's black with black leather. It's a super hot truck.
Yeah.
And when I wake up at 5 in the morning, I walk out and I get to start it up, and the exhaust is crazy. It sounds like it's a 06 Corvette. But that is the first time a vehicle's made me giddy in a while. So it's really
so it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would imagine that's a really cool perk. I would enjoy that, to just get to drive different vehicles. Sure. I appreciate all the different vehicles. I think they're fun.
No, our CEO has a couple of he's gotten, I want to say it was the Taycan 911 Turbo S, which is the Porsche EV, and it's 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds. So that was super cool to ride in. I got a neighbor that's got a Ferrari. His house is in my neighborhood, but it's not his actual house. It's an office. So he's a bit better off than I am. He's got some pretty cool cars too. Now I like all the cool cars, and I love going to the car show. I don't know. I just met the basic, big three and whatnot. This is the coolest vehicle I've driven in a long time.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. It's always nice to have a good exhaust because, yeah. I know.
It's a dying thing as we progress in EV, right? And the exhaust is.
So is it an EV? Is it an EV truck?
No. It's just a 2 liter V8. It's American muscle.
Yeah. But I thought, I was like, wait, what?
All the EV Challengers now have speakers, exhaust sounds, which is.
It's interesting. I'll say it's interesting. Because that's my problem. I'm like, how? Because the exhaust is what makes that fun feeling. And
sure. Yeah, there's something about it.
Feel it in the speaker. I don't know. I've never experienced it, so I can't say.
Yes, I'll see. It'll be here upon us before we know it.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll get to experience it before I do. So
the AVs are super torquey. They are cool and immediate power, but you can't.
You feel it though.
I don't know. I don't think you can burn rubber in an EV that automatically catch it. So it's going to be a sad day.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll have a good mix for forever, maybe. Or at least in our lifetime. Yeah. Well, Justin, thanks so much for coming on the show. Just to wrap up, is there anything that you want to add or any questions you want to ask me before we end the show?
No. Thank you for having me. And if I can support anybody or help anybody, please feel free to reach out.
Yep. We'll have all the links so people can reach out to you. But thanks again, Justin, for coming on the show.
Appreciate you. Thanks, Kaylee.
Thank you for joining us. PartsEdge, the power tool for your parts department. We hope you're leaving feeling motivated, challenged, and inspired.